Welcome to Straight Out of Savannah, Talking with Tammi, a podcast that showcases people you may not know who are choosing to use their gifts to inspire and move the planet.
Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah, Talking with Tammi, with my guest, Tamika Newhouse. She's going to come on and tell you who she is and what it is that she does and how she can help you. Tamika, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tamika Newhouse. I like to call myself a creativepreneur. And I basically still tell stories in different forms, whether it's literary form in an actual book, or I'm curating an experience through an actual event. I have 17 books. I'm about to put out my 18th novel. I also produced my own podcast, which is actually a memoir. I'm about to be a documentarian. I go into filming that next month.
Nice.
And I mean, I'm just a lover of love, and I'm just a roundaway type of girl.
I love that. I love that. So how did you get started in being a creativepreneur?
Well, I stumbled into the preneur part, but I've always been a creative. And I want to say it was about 8 or 9 years old when I discovered the art of telling stories, or some folks like to call it lying.
I was getting ready to say.
It's lying, like you making up stuff. So I was a lonely child. I mean, I was introverted. I didn't technically know how to naturally engage with other kids, and I wasn't technically interested in what they were doing. And when I wasn't at home writing in my journals, I was at church, and church was my family. And my pastor, rest his soul, he just passed away a week ago. He was my godfather.
Oh, wow.
He taught me everything you need to know about the Bible. And he even sometimes had me preaching on Sunday nights. And I was like this big bombshell in the church, but like this hermit in this, this little mouse, at school. And so writing short stories was something, in poetry and even writing songs was something that made me feel alive. I felt like this is where I could really be myself, and where there was no limits in my journals. Yes. I even took it further, and I used to record myself on these cassette tapes. And with like original songs, I put all my cousins and my sisters and all of them together, and I'll make them sing the lyrics to my song, and I'll have my other cousin. I'll you know how the hanger used to have this wooden stick on it. It's like a wire hanger, but the bottom was wood. And so I would take that off the hanger and I'll break it in half to make drums. And he was my drummer, and I was on the keyboards. I used to have us being our own band. And I just always loved creating. And it wasn't until I was 12 years old and my mother took me to the Dollar Theater, because we had a really big family. And we couldn't go see the movie when it was fresh out. We had to wait like 3 to 6 months until it was at the Dollar Theater to go see the movie. And we went to go see How Stella Got Her Groove Back.
Oh, wow.
And right, don't judge my mother. I know y'all was rated R. But it was starring Angela Bassett. But the biggest shock value was that it was originally a book written by a Black woman. Yes. And when I was told that, I was like, wait a minute, a Black woman did that? So what? I want to do that too. And I told my mother this at 12, that I wanted to be a full-time authoress. I was also in love with the city Atlanta, because I knew back then that Atlanta was like our Wakanda. Like Black folks went there and they just thrived. They just did whatever they wanted to do. And yes. I wanted to go where Black folks was doing stuff. And I knew that at 12. So I said, I'm going to go there and I'm going to be a full-time author. And that's basically, where all this creative roots originated from. Now, once I moved here, well, I'm kind of skipping over a little bit. I became a young mom, and I was a mom by like 16. And, all of my dreams and all that kind of subsided. You kind of get into the routine of being a mom, being responsible. I had a full-time job. I was going to school. I was still with the father of my child at the time. We eventually got married 2 years later. A year after that, my mother ended up passing away. And it was like back-to-back traumas that I experienced. And it wasn't until she passed where I picked up the pen again and I began to freestyle, write almost like in a journal like this. And I started writing a book called The Ultimate No-No. And it has nothing to do with healing, nothing to do with whatever you thought my state of mind would be, but it was just drama. It was girls playing games on boys and making them fall in love with them and breaking their hearts, like stuff like that. And then it sat on my shelf for like a year. And I didn't find myself pulling it off the shelf until I discovered the art of self-publishing. And I discovered that when my son, my second child, was 9 months. Sitting in my lap, I started an online book club called AAMBC. It stands for African Americans on the Move Book Club. And I wanted to be a part of a book club. I was in a new city at this point, and I didn't really know how to make new friends. Here I am again, being, antisocial, being, an introvert, and not really knowing how to walk up to grown women and be like, hey, you want to be my friend? You want to read books with me? I thought that was weird, So I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to just start me an online book club. That way I ain't got to worry about being friends with somebody. I just talk to people online. So my face was big then. And I began to talk about books I was reading. Eric Jerome Dickey was one of them. Frances Ray, Mary Monroe, Mary Morrison, Elin Harris, all these greats, Zane. And I was beginning to talk about these books on MySpace. And then writers end up messaging me saying, hey, can you read my book? And I was like, I've never heard of you. Okay, I'll give it a try. And then more came. And then more came. And then suddenly I was like, oh my God, there are hundreds and hundreds of Black writers. Where y'all come from? And, back then we just had Black Expressions. I don't know if you learned Black Expressions.
Yep.
And they would be just inside of the Essence magazine. And there was maybe like the same old 20 writers on a bookshelf. Teri McMillan, Nikki Giovanni.
Yep. Alice
Walker. The same, writers that we see.
The ones that we already read.
Right. And that was all we ever read. And I'm like, why are we not talking about their books? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, how y'all get your book out? Because I got this book, The Ultimate No-No, that I wrote. And I want my book to come out too. So they told me, well, I self-published. I was like, self-published, what is that? So I took to Google and I started Googling self-publishing. I was like, wait a minute. I can put my own book out? Hold on. Why nobody told me I can make my own dreams come true?
What you say? Stop the press.
Yeah. Like I was pissed. I was pissed, but also excited at the same time because I discovered my own power in that moment. Like, wait a minute. I have a dream to be a writer and I can make that dream come true. Yes. So I did the steps. I discovered every single step that it took to put out the book, and I did it. And at 20, I had my very first project in my hand.
Nice.
And I guess the rest is history. I don't know if we want me to keep going.
I do.
Okay.
I want you to talk about how that felt. How did that make you feel when you held that book in your hand?
It felt surreal. I can remember just like yesterday. Mm-hmm. Man, I was waiting for that UPS truck to pull up all day. And I'm saying, like, he was like, I was the last dropout. Like, come on, man, I'm waiting for you to come out. So when I heard that truck, I think I ran down the steps 2 at a time to get to that front door. And when I opened up the package and I was like holding it, the cover was ugly too. It was ugly cover, but I'm holding it. I'm flipping through the pages and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. Like it's here.
Look, I'm a writer.
Yeah, I'm a writer. And before the book actually was in stores and stuff like that, because I was sending my own distribution, I had booked the flight. And I was going to go to North Carolina because I was talking to other writers online. And I had already decided, okay, I'm putting this book out. People need to read it. But I don't have a publisher. I don't have a publicist. So that means I got to do it. That was just common knowledge to me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I ain't bet. I'm going to book me a flight. I've never been on a plane. Not even one time. I was 21. 21 at this point. Booked me a flight, went to Raleigh, North Carolina with an author group that I actually created. It was called Artists with a Passion. And my reason behind creating this author tour group was because I was new, I was unknown, and I felt like there were power in numbers. Don't nobody know you, don't nobody know me, don't nobody know you. So cool, let's join forces and let's travel together. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. And so we went to Raleigh, North Carolina, and guess how many books I sold?
How many?
2. Don't be laughing at me.
I'm laughing with you.
Okay. So I sold
because
two.
in your mind, you said, oh, I'm gonna sell 100 books.
No, I don't know how many. Honestly, I don't remember how many I thought I was going to sell, but it damn sure wasn't no damn two. Oh, can I cuss? I'm sorry. It wasn't two. It wasn't two. And then I ended up going to a Black-owned bookstore there, and I gave them two books. So actually on consignment. I still never got paid for them books, but it is what it is. So I ended up leaving North Carolina with 4 books out of my possession. That means 4 new readers. I think I got on that plane feel like $1 million. I was excited. It was 4 people that had never read my book, and they was about to read my book. I was excited, real talk.
Yep.
So you know what I did? I booked me another flight. I can't remember where I went to next, but for a whole 12 months, well, let me backtrack. A whole 9 months, I was on a flight somewhere doing a book signing. I got better and better and better. Within that 9 months, there is an award show called the African American Literary Award Show. It's held in New York every year. It was like our own Grammy, sort of say, like our own award show for Black writers. Held in New York. All of the greats was there. And I look at the nomination list, and I'm nominated. Me? I was nominated for Self-Published Author of the Year.
Awesome.
Like, that's what's up. And as I told my husband at the time, I was uber excited. It was also bittersweet, because I was doing everything that I said I wanted to do, but my mother wasn't here to witness it. And I remember walking through Times Square at this very moment, you know, being excited about, I'm in Times Square. Like, and not only that, when I was booking my flights, Eric Jerome Dickey was sitting in the seat behind me.
Oh, wow.
I know. That's how I felt. And I'm like, Eric Jerome Dickey is here. I got to introduce myself. Because he was going to the award show as well. And I was meeting like Free and AJ from 106 in Park. I was meeting stars and singers that I was seeing on TV. Trey Songz, I ended up meeting him. And I'm like, oh my God. And I actually ended up winning an award that night. The biggest thing about that was there was an editor there. There are 5 major publishers in New York, and one of them is called Kensington. And the editor of Kensington.
Okay.
So you have like Kensington, HarperCollins, St. Martin Press, Random House, and Kensington was one of the top 5. And they had a Black division called Delphine. Oh. And so the editor, she was there in the award show. She was in the audience, and she was like, "Hey, I've heard of you." And she heard of me because there are a lot of author groups online. When I tell you I was getting on authors' nerves, I was posting every day, me and my errors. Like, I always had errors in my emails and my statements. I was pressed. I was online 9 to 10 hours out the day, posting stuff about my book club. So everybody and their mama at that point in the book world had seen my name, and apparently so has she. So she was like, "I heard of you." And I was like, "Oh, really? That's great." And she was like, "I want to, read your book." In my mind, because I'm a hustler, I was like, okay, that's $15. But I was like, okay, she the editor of Kingston. I'm gonna go ahead and give her a book. I just thought that she wanted to read it. But I wasn't giving out no books for free. But I figured, what, she editor, I ain't gonna be like that. Let me go ahead and get her this book. So I gave her the book, went back home, and I'm back on the grind. She contacts me a few months later and said, "Hey, we wanna buy the rights to your book." Me? And she was like, "Yeah." So they offered me, and this is very rare for back then, because you're supposed to have a literary agent to speak to these editors and get them a book deal. And I'm doing all this, y'all, within less than a year of being out. So I'm like, I bet. They sent me the contracts, and within a year, my book, The Ultimate No-No, was on every major bookshelf that you can think of, even across the pond. People on Twitter was tweeting me. This is also when my Twitter started blowing up, telling me how they reading the characters, they fell in love with the characters. Like, I was amped. Like, I was excited. I ended up putting out part 2 for The Ultimate No-No, because I knew that 2 books was better than 1. And I was going and going and going and going and going. By 22 or so, my publishing company was rising, and it's called Delphine Publications. It's named after my late mother. And
I have heard of that.
Say it again.
I have heard of that.
Oh, well, thank you.
I didn't know that was you, though.
Yes. So Delphine Publications is my baby. And it still gets submissions to this day. I don't publish no more, you guys. So, but I do help consult and all that jazz. But Delphine Publications ended up becoming one of the largest independent publishing houses to date during that time in the early 2010s. I was dominating the urban fiction book world. I was doing the most. I mean, I was on the East Coast every month. I was on the corners of New York selling my books. I mean, I was hitting up the Bronx. I was hitting up Harlem. I was hitting up, what's some other areas in New York? Brooklyn. I was in every borough that you can think of. Queens in New York. Then I went to Philly. Then I went to Jersey. Then I went to Washington, D.C., went to Baltimore. I used to sell a lot of books in Baltimore, at least 100 books every time I went. And I'm just this Texas country girl, I'm just this Texas country girl, you know, on the East Coast trying to get people interested in my love story. And all they liked was hood books and street tales. Because, you know, this is the era of Quan. You know, Quan is like the king of street lit up there.
Yes.
And so, and like urban books with Carl Weber. So here I am, I'm this little country bumpkin, you know, and I'm trying to like, buy my book. And it ended up actually working in my favor. By 23, I started signing on other writers because I figured, hey, I could do the same with them. By 23, my company was grossing well into the six figures. I dropped out of school and I quit working. I sure did.
Well, what'd you need it for?
Like, I was a teacher, and at that point, them kids was getting on my nerves, and I was like, bump this. And I haven't worked a job since. And from there, I went into producing, producing with shows, curating conversations for networks, producing my own award shows, producing my own book festivals. And now to this date, if you name an author, 9 out of 10 times I have worked with those authors. A lot of writers too that you see that contribute to like Netflix, BET, Amazon Prime. They even have books on the bookshelves. A lot of them either was promoted through AAMBC. I've worked with them. I've done events with them. I've coached them, and every single writer you can think of, including the late great Eric Drum Dickey, I worked with. I was buddies with. Like I was doing it. Doing it. So it was every single thing that I wanted to do. I surpassed it. I wanted to be a full-time actor living in Atlanta. But then it was because of how aggressive I was, how excited I was about my journey.
Yes.
And where I had these conversations with people not really knowing what I was doing. And it ended up opening up multiple doors where now I can, you know, connect with people at Netflix, connect with people at BET. Like I can do all these different things now.
Because your energy is amazing.
Well, thank you.
I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons I reached out to you.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Because I saw you on Instagram.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. And I didn't even know. I knew that you were an author, and I seen, you know, some of the books. I seen The Ultimate No-No, and actually I said, I need to read that, but let me tell you something. You know how it is when you write, and you also love to read, and you also like to learn. So like for me, I think I'm probably reading about 6 books right now.
Dang, that's a lot.
Well, because I'm studying stuff too, you know, because I like to learn, and I want, you know, it's like the more information that you can get is what I want to get. You know, I wish I could just study, you know, like for a few months, a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I like to learn stuff. And so that, and then also books that people send me, because a lot of times when I do these interviews, a lot of times people send me some of their stuff, and I'm like, okay. And they're like, did you read it? I'm like, well, I read, you know, some of it. It was not
I get asked that all the time, and my house is full of independent novels.
Yeah.
Everybody might want me to read their book, and I honestly cannot, but I will treasure it. I will post it on social media and tell people go and check it out. But when I'm also a creator and a writer, I can't read and create at the same time, because if I'm reading about Billy gonna end up in my story. So it was often I couldn't create and read. So
okay, that was something I was going to ask you about too, because I know that a lot of times when you are a creator or writer or whatever, you know, whatever you do, it's hard if you're reading a lot of other people's stuff and you're trying to create. It's like, oh, like for me, it's like when I'm sitting down and it's time for me to write, I'm like, no, I'm not even looking at that. You know? Because it's just like you said, right. It's like, okay, no, I gotta hear what's in my head.
You got to understand that writing is an art form.
Yes.
Writers are artists.
Yes.
So I cannot dive into their artistry and then go over here and try to create my own art.
Yes.
I'm going to start imitating their art.
Yes.
So my voice may start sounding like their voice. Like, you can't do that. So I think people forget that writing is an art form. We're artists too. It's like we have to polish our writing. We have to perfect our writing, perfect our voice, discover new ways to tell stories. Life is our research, all that jazz. Like, I love the process of discovering how to tell new stories, how to build my characters. But yeah, I can't dive into someone else's artistry while I'm creating.
Yes, that's so real. And I think people need to hear that, because a lot of people feel like, if you're a writer, then you just read all the time, but you can't do that. Nope. You have to take that space. And if it's a time where that's what you're doing, then that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you're in the place where you're creating, like right now, I'm writing another book about my grandmother because she was my person. And so I'm writing this book now about her. And it's called Passing the Pearls. That's the name of it.
I like that. Passing the pearls.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I like that. I like the analogy behind that. I kind of get it too, without you even telling me.
Exactly. But it's like, and so when you're doing that, and then I had got some other ideas, because I mean, what do you do when you get like multiple ideas? Because I know you do, because I can see it inside your head.
I started working with another young lady that's the same age as me. She had owned a chain of bookstores along the East Coast. This is how I met her. I walked to her bookstore with my roller bag and my books, asking for my books to go on her bookshelf. She looked at my book and said my cover was ugly, and no. I changed and versus me getting upset. Yeah, she said it was ugly. It wasn't going to work for her audience. And I said, I ain't bet. So what do I need to do? So I changed my cover. And ever since then, me and her have built this friendship and this bond. Dang, what was the question? Oh, all these ideas. Cool. So when all of her chains closed down and I found myself overwhelmed, when she came in, she was the one that told me, you got too much going on. Like, it's like I always want to do things. Like I'm blogging for networks. I'm interviewing their talent. I'm curating events and experiences. I'm producing my own award show. I'm producing my own book festival. I'm trying to put out my own books. I'm publishing for 30 writers. I don't have a co-publisher, so I'm pretty much doing this all on my own. I don't have an in-house publicist, so I'm also the publicist. I'm communicating with all of my contractors. I'm also an artist. So that means that I have to be my very own publicist. I also have to do my own booking manager. I have to do the research to where I'm gonna do these book events. I'm also traveling. So by 26, I was burnt out. I was tired. And even now, like, she taught me how to prioritize things that are important. She also taught me business, how to structure my business. And that's another thing that I also get into now with creativepreneurs. So when you publish a book and you self-publish, you are now in business. So study the craft, study the process, understand what you need to do to maintain. What is your ROI? What did you initially invest? What is your goals for the year? Like, people that be putting out books don't know what they're doing with it. And so now we have this overly saturated industry, and we have all of these books out there that's going nowhere because nobody know what they're doing. So I had to learn the hard way too, to restructure my companies. I had launched 4 or 5 different brands with no structure, with no operations. I was tripping. So I had to double back, build the operations for my companies. And that was hard because she sat me down and she asked me hundreds and hundreds of questions. And those questions, she had questions for those answers. So she so why'd you do this? I did because of this. Okay. So are you going to do this? So it was so much that I had to learn when it comes to business wise. So now it's I know how to prioritize the things that are important. And I also manage my projects via project management tools. I have a calendar. Where's my calendar? Well, it's somewhere. I have an actual physical calendar where I write down my goals. I have a digital calendar where I organize my days. So my phone is constantly going off with interviews. If I have to go pick up my son, I literally make sure my phone goes off every day so I do not forget to pick up my son. He will be standing right there at the end of the school day waiting for me if I do not have my alarm on. So I just try to organize and keep myself structured because being an entrepreneur, there's no clocking in and clocking out.
Ciao. Say that.
Yeah. That's I enjoy it. It's my baby, you know. The work I put in, I reap the benefits. And when I don't work, I'm reaping those benefits too.
Right.
So
and that taught you something as well.
It did. You know, like don't always be like on a sprint, like boom, 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 boom. Pace yourself so that you don't burn out and then prioritize, you know, your projects in your day. So I have like a monthly goal, weekly goal, and I have my daily checklist that I write out what I need to make sure I do every morning when I sit down on my laptop. I write it down and I exit off. So yeah, so I just try to stay organized.
So what does your self-care practice look like?
Self-care. I also go to the gym every day. This morning, I did a run. I did a 4-mile run. I also, music is my thing. So I'll put on some music. Yeah. And I like to sing. I don't really sing on key, but that don't stop me. And then I also picked up a new hobby of cooking. Like I like discovering new recipes. So I really do take out time for myself. And then I also have like a monthly family day for me and my son. So I make sure that we do something. I also go on a trip at least every quarter with my son. Like we catching a flight and we going somewhere. And then I like to date. I like to socialize. So I'll go out for some drinks and I'll engage with people because that helps me, decompress, a little bit. So I do take time out for things that I enjoy and I stay active physically. Because if you're a creativepreneur or just an entrepreneur, period, you're sitting down a lot. So make sure you're being active and you're giving your body the energy that it needs.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I agree with that. That's powerful. And the thing is some things that they don't always teach you with entrepreneurship. And now they're kind of getting to the place where people are talking about that.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have a good self-care routine and all that stuff. And, learn how not to just be grinding, try to get in a place of flow and all this kind of stuff. But, years ago, they weren't talking about that.
Not at all. Like people, we tend to neglect our mental health. I'm actually I'm putting together what I call a creative survival kit. And so it's helping creatives break down their process so that they can survive this journey because it's fun, but to maintain it, you got to have some structure and you got to have some goals and you have to have self-care measures. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to burn out. I had to learn that the hard way. So my survival kit, hopefully I'll have it out this fall. It's going to help you guys kind of manage, this process.
See, that's good. That's good because I know for me, I started diving into human design.
Okay.
Because I wanted to find out, how to maximize that, looking at my design for, who I am. And if you haven't dove into it, it explains so much. I mean, I'm astonished at how accurate it is. It explains so much. For me, it was like, okay, so now I see why I'm like I am. And you know what I mean? And not look at it strangely, because I was like, I'm a person that I'm an introvert. I call myself an introvert extrovert.
Because I can be both. And I'm a Gemini, so I'm like, it's like 4 of me. Sometimes about 6, but it's a good strong 4.
See, and I'm a Scorpio, so
Oh Lord.
Right? Intense.
I'm dealing with a Scorpio now.
Intense.
Yeah, very intense. I mean, but definitely when you guys you love really hard. You're definitely loyal, extremely loyal. But to get there, it's like, gotta like break you down.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly. And so, but once when I dove into that, it was like, okay, yes. Now I see, because for me, I'm a reflector, which very rare.
Yeah.
Like 1% of the planet, and I was like, okay, so now I understand, because for me, like, I can't do negativity and I never could. And it's like one of those things. And so now I see why. It's like, oh, okay, this is why, because, it reflects. And so I was
Yeah.
like, all right. So that has been something that, really has helped me to understand, me. Because
Yeah.
just like we were talking about in the green room, as we get older and as we move, through different times of our life, then we have to adjust ourselves. And also we begin to see, we can look back and we can see, okay, yeah, this is something that I did. Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe that's
Yeah.
not going to work. Maybe I need to make a
Yeah.
shift,
Yeah.
and the thing is that to me is so powerful. But
It
what you
is.
did with the writing is like, I mean, I'm inspired. I am so
Thank you.
inspired because writing for me came late. Well, okay. So like I always was a writer since I was young, but I heard people say, well, you ain't gonna make no money with that. You know what I mean?
Girl, I used to hear that too.
And they push you, my parents was like, okay, well, go to school. You want to be a doctor, go be a doctor, or, go be
Anything
a
creative,
whatever.
they say that you're not gonna make no money from.
Yeah,
But
we starving artists,
we're in a
right?
different era where
Yes.
creativity is like the number one thing. Don't nobody even want no
Yes.
9 to 5. Like people
Well,
even
that's
forget
great.
about having a trade and going to trade school. Like it's more social media, it's more creative. It's more everybody trying to be a boss and an entrepreneur, but not really knowing what it takes to maintain this. Like it's
Yes.
when you are an entrepreneur, you got taxes, accounting, operations, business
Yes.
formation, your licensing.
Yes.
Then you got your marketing, your management. Like, these are 8 little things,
Yes.
and nobody went to business school.
Right.
So this is like people understand. Just it's a lot. You can do it, but it is a lot, folks. Like writing the book is the fun part. Right, putting out the music is the fun part. Writing the script, that's the fun part. Now what?
That's what I tell people. I said, because somebody asked me, they said, you self-published? I said, yeah. I said, I self-published this last time. The time before that, I did like a hybrid, and she did good. She did good. Let me just go there.
Gotcha.
But I had to do the publicist part,
Okay. I
because
understand hybrid. Hybrid is like this new wave of publishing that people are doing where the
that you could do
publisher isn't
yourself.
taking on, they're not really taking on much of the responsibility, basically.
Right.
Basically, you kind of self-publishing, but you have the support of a publisher.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's it. And it's like,
That's
okay.
it.
So this last time I said, you know what? I'm doing publishing an ebook. I published an ebook. I
Okay.
self-published it. I found my own editor. I got a cover person and all that stuff. I did
Okay.
all that. And I just did it. And I was like, okay, well, this is not bad. I can do this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they try to discourage you and make it really hard, but it really is
It's
not
really
that
not. It's
bad.
really not that hard at all.
And like I tell the people, I said, this girl said, well, did you edit? I said, no, I'm not an editor. I'm a writer. I said, so I let the people that edit. I was
Yeah. It's kind
and
of
the people
like,
that do a cover, let them do the cover.
yeah, it's kind of like, and girl, I've seen writers try to do it all. And I'm like your book is a baby. Do you make a baby by yourself?
No,
And for the most part, do you birth a baby by yourself?
no. You got all
So
kinds of
why
help.
you think you could do every single part by yourself? You're not an editor. First of all, please, if you're a writer, please don't edit your own book.
Exactly.
You cannot edit your own book. Like
No.
it's almost impossible. People want to probably just run it through like spell check and Grammarly, but there are like multiple phases, at least 3 phases of editing. You got your developmental editing, you got your copy editing, you got your proofing. And your developmental editing to me is most important.
Yes.
Because does your story flow? Or your characters fully developed? Why is Natalie 5'2" in the beginning, but in the middle of the book, you're talking about she's almost tired at 6 feet? What we doing here? Who's Natalie? Like, it's things like that people don't understand, that your editor is here to catch it. How are people trying to connect? What is the point of this story?
Yes.
Is there a resolution?
Yes.
Is there a climax? And then when you go into your copy editing, this is where you're gonna do make sure your thans and your ands and your commas and all your colons and all that is correct.
Yes.
And your proofing. You guys in this, and sometimes these are different people that are doing these phases, especially the proofing part. where they're just going in and reading it, making sure that all the errors are gone, and then making sure that it makes sense, and then critiquing you on your story. Like,
Yes.
people don't understand there are multiple levels just to that. And
Mm-hmm.
then, does your cover match your story?
Yes.
Like, if this is a romance book, why is there an egg on your cover?
Child, look here.
What do we do? Like, people like, what are we doing? Is this a cookbook?
This is mine. That's my cover.
Ooh. Oh, okay, Teri.
Okay. I loved it.
And this is mine.
Oh, I like that. Sugar Hill. Yes. Yes.
I call that my Love Jones tale.
Yes. I was getting
Don't
ready
you
to
get like a poetic lovey feel from this?
I was gonna say that's what I was thinking. I was like,
See?
oh, Love
See,
Jones.
and then you want your back cover to be, dope. I have to put myself on it.
Mhm.
So,
that.
like it all has to match, like
Yes.
it got to make sense. Basically.
Mhm. Well, and the thing is, when you look at the cover, that make you want to read the book. I don't care what people say. If you got an ugly cover, it's not going to make people want to read it. They may read it just because, maybe you told them to or whatever, or maybe just, if they know part of the story or something like that.
Right.
But generally, the cover got to grab you.
In this world, I mean, in this space, in this industry,
it's visual.
Judging a book by its cover is ineffable. Like, we're going to do that. Like, there's no, don't judge me by. Yes, we are.
Yeah,
we're judging your book by the cover.
Because there's millions of books
inside the book. We don't know what the book says or what it's about, but that cover is going to tell us. That's going to be the first thing that's going to grab us.
I'm telling you, it's millions of books out there, so it's like, your book is competing with all these books.
What makes you special? Like, like, why should people care?
I'm telling you, when I picked out the cover that I liked for this book, I picked out when Angela Bassett burned the car up on Wait and Exhale. That was the inspiration.
Yeah.
And the guy he took my vision and he just went with it.
Nice.
I loved it. I was like, yes, because that was the feeling of the book.
Yeah. Nice.
So I'm like, and I think about that. It's like, okay. And that was kind of really how I got to the name of this book that I'm writing, Passing the Pearls. I was like, that's perfect because it's relevant to the time. And then it's also relevant to what the story is.
What the story is about, yeah.
I'm like, I like that. And my husband was like, yeah, that's it. Because I was just like brainstorming different things. And I'm like, okay. So what would you suggest to a person that is saying, okay, I'm ready to write my story or whatever? What would be your suggestions to them for first things to do?
Well, first, are you a natural writer? Because just because you understand English don't mean that you can tell a story. Can I say that again?
You can say it again.
Just because you understand English and you can form some words together don't mean that you can tell a story. Putting a story together is an art form. It's artistry. So if you do not know how to do that, study it or get you a ghostwriter.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and then my company, we assist in that. If you don't want to get a ghostwriter, we consult you on your story. We'll help you break down the story where it makes sense. We even put together a story Bible for you so that you have a guide on how to even, structure your story. There's ways to go about it. And then when you get ready to put the book out, ask yourself, who are you? Why would people care? Who is your audience? Because everybody's not going to want to read your book. I hate when writers say that. Oh, my book for everybody. Anybody can read my book. No, it's not. Everybody don't care. Everybody's not going to read your book.
No, they're not.
Like, somebody is not interested in your genre, but people are going to maybe be interested in you. And discover your audience. Like, discover the type of people that's going to read your book. Who are they? Where do they go? How do they normally dress? What's the type of music and things that they like to listen to? Because I used to think about that, and I took my book to music festivals. I took my book to women expos. I took my book to empowerment conferences. I took my book to where the people was at. And then I found a connect with the people when they walk past my booth. I talk to them. I politic. That's how I built my brand and I built my readership, my audience, by going to where the people were at and telling them about the story. And then from there, I built my fan base. Because I always say I'm not a salesman. I'm not traveling to these cities so I can make a return on my investment. That's stupid. I'm going to these events because I want to build a readership. I want you to read my book. I want you to tell somebody else about my book. Then I'm gonna take it a step further and I'm gonna get your email. I'm gonna add you to my newsletter. I want you to know what else I got going on. Because if you come to my table and say, oh, I don't read, but I'm gonna support you. Oh no, that's okay, sweetheart. You ain't gotta support me. I don't want your $10. I don't want your $15. I don't need to go buy a sandwich. That's not what I need. I need you to read my book. I need you to enjoy my book, and I need you to tell somebody about it. I'm not a salesman. I'm an artist.
Yes, that is perfect. That is perfect. So let the people know where they can connect with you, where they can find you, because they're going to want to find you. They're going to want to connect with you. So let them know.
Yeah. So if you guys want to hear more about, first of all, Tammy, thank you so much for allowing me to come and invade your space. This was really great.
It was amazing. I mean, the pleasure's mine.
And if you guys really want to dive a little bit more into my story and discover a little bit more about what I've done, how I've accomplished it, how I even managed my family while doing it, how I managed relationships while doing this, my memoir, Traces of Mika, is streaming on every single platform that you can think of. And that's Mika with an I, Mika. You also get to hear young Mika. Again, I used to record myself as a young child. So I took my old cassette audio and I extracted that and I made little clips in between my episodes. And so I compiled almost like an album. So think of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, or think of Who is Jill Scott. And now you have Traces of Mika. So it's Traces of Mika on all social media platforms, or just Google Traces of Mika and you'll find it on any outlet. My website is my name, TamikaNewhouse.com. My social media is my name, which is Tamika Newhouse on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is Boss Lady Tamika. And I'm also headed back on tour. So I'll be headed into like Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., Miami. I'll be in all these major cities. So make sure you go to my website, subscribe, and I would love to meet you all in person.
So if you come to Seattle, make sure you look me up.
You know what? I've never been to Seattle, but I would definitely love to come up that way. And I mean, it's a big writing community up there. Yeah.
I absolutely would love to do that because
hey, we're gonna talk to you. We're gonna make this work.
I was gonna say I just met somebody I interviewed just recently, came through Seattle, and I was like, wow, this is so interesting.
This is cool. I'm definitely bug you about the city then, so because I would definitely love to come up that way. I always want, it's this little island off of Washington that I want to go and just write for like a week as well. So that'd be like a really perfect time to just kind of get away. So
we just bought some land on an island up in Washington.
Hey, okay.
So we are definitely, that's my goal, is like to put my place on there and have it, so I can be there during the summer. And the winter, I need to be someplace where it's warm.
Yeah, I love that. All right.
Just go in Airbnb,
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right, so this has been fabulous.
It has, Tammy. It really has
so much. Oh my God. I learned so much, and I just love the way you set that thing up. And to be able to do all that stuff at such a young age, girl, that's like, oh my God.
Know. Because I figured, I was like, I gotta do something that's really a wow factor while I'm young. Because when I get older, people are like, oh, well, that's what you're supposed to be doing. When you're young, they care more. Like, oh, you're so young. Now it's like, okay.
I know. I interviewed a 19-year-old young lady that's she's a braider, and she started her own braid university.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, she's in Columbus, Georgia.
Okay. Good.
And she was so area. I mean, it was such an amazing interview because I didn't realize how young she was. And I was like, wow. And then when she just went into, how she decided to do that and everything. And then she has like classes where she teaches the moms how to do the hair, especially, She said, especially a lot of the ones that have mixed kids, because, they don't be knowing what to do with them kids' hair.
Nice.
So she teaches them how to braid. I was like, that is too cool.
That's pretty cool. Well,
especially at that age. Yeah. That's cool. So I'm like, I love it when I see the young people coming in and doing their thing, because the thing is you don't got to wait till you 50 to start doing stuff.
Nope. You really don't. You really don't. Because
the generation that's coming up now, they ain't playing.
Yeah. When you're in your 50s, you need to be cruising, not building.
Well, I'm building. I'm sorry.
You added to your builder.
But that is okay. Like I said, I am just I feel like this is act 2 for me, and it's okay.
Right. So you adding to your build up, like you folks shouldn't be, don't get started with the things you want to do. Right. When you're tipping over the hill. Come on, and there's no age limits on this. Like the younger the better.
Age none but a number. All right. Really, well, this has been so much fun. I have enjoyed it. I know that my audience is going to be thrilled, and people are going to reach out to you because I already see it. You have such an amazing energy. This has been just fabulous.
Thank you guys, so much, Tammy.
You are so welcome. You guys, when you are ready to reach out to Miss Tamika, make sure that you follow her there. Her stuff will be also in the description of the video or the audio, wherever you are watching this or listening to it. So you'll be able to find it there, and make sure that you check her out, because she's doing amazing things. And I just honestly have loved this interview.
Thank you. I have enjoyed this conversation, and I'm rooting for you, and we shall cross paths very soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to go. Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah, talking with Tammy, with my guest, Tamika Newhouse. It's been amazing, and I'm so glad that you have enjoyed this interaction.
Thank you, my ladies. Bye.
I know you've been blown away with the amazing value here today. Now go out and inspire the planet. And be sure to send us a message when you're ready to come talk about it on Straight Out of Savannah, Talking with Tammy.